Good evening, everyone. Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for our invocation. Today, Pastor Trent Renner is here. He is the lead pastor for Christ Church of Fountain Hills.
Thank you for the invitation. I've been in town for 70 days. I'm a new guy, and I've been incredibly welcomed and loved into what is a wonderful community. As Pastor Don Lawrence has been the founding pastor, as he steps down, I'm going to try not to mess up what he's been able to do here. If there's anything we can ever do for this community, just ask. Would you please all pray with me? Father in heaven, thank you, first of all, for the leaders that are represented in this room. Lord, would you give them wisdom, direction, strength, and courage to continue to lead with boldness. Father, I also want to thank you for each person represented in this room that we're here because we care. We care about this town. We care about this community. And we ask for wisdom as well. Lord, thank you for your patience, your kindness as we look at a crazy world right now. Would you help us in this great town lead by example to first set aside our personal preferences and above and beyond promote the progress and purpose of each other. Thank you for commanding us to love one another and to serve one another. Thank you for providing the way that you have. We love this community. May it honor and bless you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. You did an awesome job at the 9/11 ceremony at Christ Church. Awesome.
My son's playing this football game. Forgive me as I...
Oh, go right ahead. Hey. Roll call, please, Beth.
Mayor Kavanaugh.
Here.
Councilmember Lachey. Here. Councilmember Magazine. Here. Councilmember Yates.
Here.
Vice Mayor DePorter.
Here.
It's your turn.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
And Councilmember Hanson is absent.
Okay, I'm going to start with Councilman Yates. He's going to bring us up to date on Domestic Violence Committee and what's happening for October.
Absolutely. Excuse me. In recognition of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, the Governor's Office of Youth, Faith, and Family will host the second annual Lighting Arizona Purple, as Councilman Brown is so nicely wearing. Please show up in purple. And it's go to mag.gov for more information. Campaign was developed by the Governor's Office of Youth, Family, and Faith, and the Governor's Commission to Prevent Violence Against Women to raise statewide awareness. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, great. And thanks for still being on that committee and following closely all the activities and everything that's going on. All right, in my EDC report for today, report first on the EDC Committee for MAG. It dealt primarily with trade and the border crossing cards for Mexico that you've probably been hearing about. Representatives from Hermosillo, Sonora, tended to reinforce their support for the Arizona Development Mission for trade across the border. There was also information from the governor of the state of Sonora, Claudia Pavlovich, concerning her new initiatives for safety, including 3,000 more cameras, more police, more security forces. There was also a presentation from a Dr. Shane Shapiro, who called in from London. He basically said all studies have shown what we all know: music is a big attraction for residents and visitors to our town, so it should be a focal point of any economic development strategy. We had our first East Valley Mayor's Luncheon. I put this in economic development category because that's mostly what we end up discussing, how the Valley is doing and how we can best work together to improve the eastern part of the Valley for all of us. President Delbert Ray of Salt River Community joined us to bring us up to date on the Glendale Casino. Another big topic of discussion was a new type of housing that's going up in many parts of the Valley, housing similar to Park Place. Most of the cities are also building assisted living facilities and senior housing to accommodate the new trend towards downsizing for retirees. And that is the EDC report for today. And now I'm going to go right to Grady, introduction of the Town of Fountain Hills Assistant Fire Chief Jason Payne.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, and for the public who are here tonight, I'm very pleased to introduce as our new Assistant Fire Chief, Jason Payne. Jason just stood up, and Jason is a great catch. He has over 20 years of fire service, having worked in a variety of different communities. He most recently worked for the Salt River Pima Indian tribal community as the fire marshal there. And if he can come on down, as he's being beckoned to do so. He has really incredible experience that I think are really going to translate well to our community, particularly as we have some new projects coming online, plus the state trust land. I think he's really going to be really helping us out tremendously. Just going over his brief bio, some of the large projects that he worked on in the Salt River Pima community is Odyssey. As everyone knows, that's the largest aquarium that's going on in the Scottsdale area on the tribal community. The only one, as far as I know, that's actually in the actual desert, and the largest one in the Southwest. So that actually took a lot of trying to get understanding about how aquariums work and such, because while the staff deals with the structural elements, there's also, it's a public assembly, and so that's a big deal for people who will be there. Also, he has worked on the Scottsdale Auto Show dealerships that are going to be coming online along the 101 loop, and the Justice Center, Courthouse, and Detention Center. He also implemented a new digital 700 to 800 megahertz radio system and has been involved in the design of fire trucks and other response vehicles purchased by the department he worked at previous to Salt River. He also was instrumental in moving Salt River Pima Indian community from the 2009 IFC codes to the 2015 codes, and rewrote a number of amendments and instituted the perpetuity clause. He also served as a fire inspector, a fire investigator, and also served on the Maricopa County Arson Investigator Task Force. He's also worked with ATF on numerous fire investigations. He's a pilot. He has 2 kids, a daughter that's 14, a freshman in high school, and a son who is 12 and in 7th grade. He is also looking forward to being one of our newest residents in town, as he's actively seeking a home in our community. Please welcome Jason to our community as our latest member of our staff.
Jason. You want to say something? Go ahead.
We really wanted to clone Dave Ott, and this is a very close likeness of Dave, so I think we did pretty
Yeah.
A
well.
little taller.
Yeah.
That was in the plan, so you never know who you're getting.
Right.
Yes. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I used to live in Fountain Hills in the early 2000s, and I moved out, and now I'm going to come back in. My kids are absolutely excited. My daughter's excited to go to this high school and this son in the middle school. So I'm actively in the process, and thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
Well,
All right, welcome. All right. The recognition of Cadet Girl Scout Troop Number 1059 for earning the Girl Scout Silver Award, the second highest award for a Girl Scout, for their Take Action project, which created a bright and inviting design at the entrance of one of the town's fitness hiking trails at Golden Eagle Park. Grady?
I'll just quickly give a little brief intro. Nita Bloss is our staff person working over the community center. She oversees our meals program and is a great staff person. But not only is she an incredible staff person with the town, but she is also a scout leader with Cadet Girl Scout Troop 1059. And she, along with her young ladies, were instrumental in doing this incredible project. And she's going to go ahead and show you what they did to improve this previous eyesore in our community.
So I am the Fountain Hills Girl Scout Service Team Manager and the Girl Scout leader of Troop 1059. We're here to recognize this cadet troop for earning their Girl Scout Silver Award. It's the second highest award a Girl Scout can earn. Steps to earning a Girl Scout Silver Award. Complete a cadet journey. Identify issues you care about. Build a Girl Scout Silver Award team or go solo. Explore your community. Pick your Take Action project. Develop a project with a minimum of 50 hours service. Make a plan and put it in motion. And once the project is completed, reflect, share your story, and celebrate. The Take Action project that the girls chose, we contacted Chance Butterfield, the Golden Eagle Parks operations lead, asking if there was any projects that he needed done that our troop could do for their Silver Award Take Action project. It would need to be a sizable community service project that would make a difference for others. He said there is a tunnel over at Golden Eagle Park near the last baseball field that is part of an inner-city fitness walking trail. He gets numerous comments and complaints regarding its condition from hikers and adjacent golfers at Sunridge Canyon, and would love for the tunnel to get cleaned up and painted with bright colors. The girls discussed it and decided they liked the idea and made a commitment to Mr. Butterfield to beautify the tunnel. After researching the internet, several examples were presented to Mark Mayer for consideration. After meeting to discuss the project and looking over the examples, Mr. Mayer gave his approval for the Beautify the Tunnel Take Action project to proceed. Troop 1059 met and finalized a bright geometric design. The troop decided they wanted more than geometric shapes, so they each chose one flower and one animal to help add interest to the wall. Next, the girls took a trip to Ace Hardware to pick out colors for the design and to get an estimate of how much paint it would take to paint the 123-foot tunnel on both sides and ceiling. At the end of the project, approximately 42 gallons of paint and 5 gallons of anti-graffiti clear coat was used. The town provided the paint, drop cloths, and the paint trays. Troop 1059 provided brushes, plastic paint containers, masking tape, chalk, ladders, paper towels, trash bags, and the much-needed volunteer manpower. How long did it take? The painting started February 27th and finished July 9th. Troop 1059 is made up of 3 Girl Scouts and 2 leaders. There were 19 additional helpers, total of 37 days painting, a total of 231 hours by days, and a total of 1,133 project hours if you multiplied it by the hours times the volunteers that showed up that day. Cleaning. The tunnel was dark inside and full of bugs, spider webs, and dirt daubers. The floor needed to be cleaned first. It was covered with about 4 to 5 inches of sand and gravel debris. Mr. Butterfield assisted with passing through the tunnel several times with a large sweeper. Next, the brooms and mops came out to clean the walls and ceiling and to do the final sweep of the floor. We spent 1 day cleaning. Priming was the next phase. The concrete walls and ceilings were black and needed priming in order to provide a better finished product and to help keep the cost down on how many gallons of colored paint would be needed. We spent 5 days painting 2 coats of white primer on the walls and ceiling. Next came the painting the ceiling. One of the girls' grandfather is a professional painter and suggested that we paint the ceiling first before painting the walls. The girls were so excited to see color go up after painting only white for so many days. Rolling the paint onto the ceiling went at a slower pace. It was hard pushing the roller up to get paint into all of the holes. And as you can see, there was celebration at the end. We spent 4 days painting 2 coats of yellow on the ceiling. Next was design, layout, and painting. After the ceiling was finished, the design was sketched on the wall with chalk and pencil. Kelly Blows, co-leader, created a digital graphic layout to scale and printed it in color to be used as a blueprint. The concrete panels were approximately 8 foot by 8 foot. The designs were created in 4 foot and 8 foot layouts. Everyone took turns measuring and drawing the geometric designs. Kelly is an artist and was responsible for drawing all the animals and the flowers. There was a lot of excitement and celebration the day the first stroke of color went up on the walls. We spent 28 days on design, layout, and painting. Our volunteers. Troop 1059 is a small troop of 3 girls and 2 adults. Once we got into the project, we soon realized that it was going to take forever if we were going to try and complete it by ourselves. At this time, we were painting once a week on the weekend. We enlisted help from Girl Scout Cadet Troop 2664, artist friends, parents of the girls, and personal friends. If they were old enough to hold a paintbrush and willing to come and help, we welcomed them. Towards May, we switched to painting to 2 to 3 days a week. Summer and 100+ degree weather was around the corner. The girls learned how to be a leader of a large project. After they had painted several days and got the operational flow down, they were put in charge of organizing the materials for the day, assigning volunteers a section to paint, and teaching the volunteers painting tips and techniques that they had just learned. The project completed. On the final day of painting, they were happy but also very relieved that the project was completed. Towards the end, it was hard to stay motivated painting in the 100+ degree weather. They signed their art piece and listed the names of everyone who helped beautify the tunnel. They wanted to thank everyone for their support. Here is the entrance to the tunnel before the project began. And here is the entrance after the project was finished. Here is the exit to the tunnel before the project began. And here is the exit of the tunnel after the project was finished. As you can see, there was a very dramatic change to the tunnel. All during the project, people that came through were so excited and happy that the girls were doing this. They had only positive things to say. One comment that stood out the most was heard by the girls as the family came down. The father told their little girl, "Honey, it's okay, we can walk down here now. The tunnel isn't scary anymore." Mr. Butterfield, the project advisor, constantly expressed his sincere appreciation for all their hard work and what a wonderful job they were doing. It was great to receive gratification all through the long months of painting. It helped keep the girls inspired, knowing that what they were doing was making a difference for their town and for the people that use the tunnel. So now we'll open it up. This is a final kind of focus picture of what it looked like looking down the middle of it. So we'll open it up for any questions or comments, and then afterwards we're going to ask the girls to come up and receive their silver award pin.
All right. Well, this is pretty awesome. I went down to take a look at it, and the dragon, that bumblebee, and all the other animals that you put on there. And I couldn't even believe when I walked in there and saw that you did the ceiling too. I kept looking at it saying, how did they do that? And the part where the grate is over, you got in there and you did the whole thing, and it really brightened it up. But it's just amazing. And I mean, the pictures don't even do it justice. I took a whole bunch of pictures myself because it was really so cute. So congratulations. It's just amazing. Would anyone like to, Councilman Brown?
Thank you, Mayor. We can call this a silver award. Girls, this is a triple gold award. I mean, for all the effort you went to in the heat of the summer and to beautify that, it's absolutely amazing that you've accomplished that. So thank you very much.
Well, the actual gold award for Girl Scouts only requires 80 hours of of community service.
Oh,
And this
wow.
project, we didn't know it when we said, yes, we'll paint it for you. We were thinking, a couple of
Yeah.
weekends, we'll get it done. But it did end up being way over what a silver award is required. But the girls were committed, and once they were in there, they were going to finish what they committed to.
And it clearly shows.
So,
Thank you.
Councilman Yates?
Likewise, thank you so much, ladies. My daughter graduated as a Girl Scout as well, and they had 6 girls in theirs, and they didn't do something this large. I would like to suggest that maybe we have a ribbon cutting, if we could schedule something with the chamber and
That
actually
would
have
be
a
nice.
big, we'll get the media down there and everything, but I thank you so much, ladies. That's tremendous.
Well, we'll make sure that it's touched up and in unfortunately, the rains came through and washed some sand through and did a little bit of damage, but, that's to be expected. And we're really pleased. The graffiti has pretty much stopped. As soon as we started painting in the tunnel, the graffiti was on the sidewalk to the tunnel. And then while we were in there, we had one food graffiti, someone marked with strawberries or something. But otherwise, there's only been one tag. And when we did research on doing a tunnel like that, and that had been getting graffiti hits, they said that if you put care into this area and show that this is something of pride, it will hold back. It won't totally prevent it, but it will hold back. And I must say, I think it has happened.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Councilman Magazine?
I can't do more than echo what's been said, but I feel like I have to say congratulations. This is absolutely amazing. I mean, it's hard to believe that what this looked like and what it looks like now. And now that you have all this experience, I wonder if those of you who'd like to do another tunnel would raise your hands. No, congratulations. This is fabulous.
Well,
Councilman
thank you.
Leger?
Well done. Actually, Councilman Magazine stole my line because I have several painting jobs that I'm going to be looking for some volunteers for. But so what's the next step in their development in terms of awards and badges beyond the silver?
Well, the next one is the Gold Award.
gold one.
And it can be earned 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th grade.
Okay.
They have to do, it's a solo project.
Okay.
They can have helpers, but they are in charge of their project. And again, it has to be of something that is benefit to the community, and it has to be something they're passionate about, or they're not going to spend all that hours into it. And then they're the leader of theirs. Like this one, I started out the leader of the project, and then the girls, took one later on. But this one, they start out from the day one. They are the leader of that project, and and it goes on their school resume. A gold award if a girl goes to military out of high school or even later. If she's earned her gold award, she will automatically, after passing basics, she will go one level higher than the other people that she went through basic with. So it's recognized. They know that there is leadership to do it.
Awesome.
So if you can imagine doing this project, as a team, imagine someone doing that project as a solo with helpers.
I can just imagine. Congratulations to each and every one of you. Nice job.
I think we also want to congratulate you, Nita, because we know how long you've been working with Girl Scouts, and there wouldn't be this project or this Girl Scout troop without you. And I know how hard.
I'm puffed with pride for
I know, but I know how hard you've worked with the girls over the years. So we also want to say thank you to you, and thank you to all of the volunteers that came to help them. I know the parents, you always get, hey, my mom can help, she can paint, right? So thank you to all the extra volunteers that came out to help. But we're
One more comment.
sure.
I hope that these photos and the story will make their way into the Fountain Hills Times, because the whole community should know about this.
Yes, Bob Burns has contacted me, and he's going to help take care of that. The reason we held off doing it while we were in the midst of the project is that Mr. Butterfield thought it might invite taggers because they know something's going on. And if we could get it in there and get the anti-graffiti coat on it, which it does work, it did, they've had one tag, and they were able to get it off.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
it did work. It was well worth the effort for the town to put that coat on.
Okay.
So if there's no more questions or comments, Mayor Kavanaugh and Kelly, would you come up here and help present the girls with their Girl Scout Silver Award?
That's a good one.
And if you'll stand on this side of Kelly. So girls, as I call your name, please come up to receive your silver award. Again, Mercy Taylor.
We're going to give you one of our silver fountain pens
Oh,
to add to your pin
thank
collection.
you. Natalie Flynn. And Deanna George. So thank you, Troop 1059, for taking action to improve your community. We are all very proud of you. Okay. Okay, don't scrunch up. Thank you.
Good one.
Okay. The next, we have a presentation by Maricopa County Sheriff's Office Captain David Letourneau regarding law drug statistics for the town of Fountain Hills. Brady, did you want to
Yeah,
start?
just briefly, I just wanted to let you know why we're doing this tonight. You'll recall that earlier this summer, we had the unfortunate overdose of 2 young adults in town due to drugs. And there was some concern in the community about, our drugs and, is this an issue? Is this becoming a greater problem? And so basically, at the request of a few council members, I went ahead and contacted Captain Letourneau. Captain Letourneau worked with the statisticians over at MCSO Central, and so he has a presentation he'll be giving on this issue. I also asked Shelley Mallory, who's the executive director of the Fountain Hills Coalition, to be here tonight. And, I don't know, I didn't ask her actually to speak, but she's always ready if the council has any follow-up questions of her. The young adults who did die due to the overdose of drugs were actually not high school age. They were in their 20s. But with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Captain Letourneau.
Madam Mayor, Council, good to see everybody. We put this presentation together. It was a little bit, the way we looked at doing it, was taking a 5-year plan, 5 years of activity, calls for service. And F5 to get it started and then enter, right? Oh, okay. The statistics provided include Maricopa County Sheriff's Office calls for service covering January 2011 through September 2016. A call for service is an event occurring in or near Maricopa County to which one or more MCSO deputies must respond to evaluate or take action, or an event that comes to the attention or is initiated by deputies. That requires formal documentation or a department report, supplemental report, or an accident report. So those are the three type of actions one of my deputies will take: a full-blown initiated report, or they'll supplement a report that they took a call from earlier, or obviously an accident report, which happens at the time. This presentation will cover the following: statistics, a crime map, and the demographics of arrestees or the individuals that we arrest.
Excuse me, Captain Letourneau. With regard to making an action, if a phone call was made saying, I think I saw this, them just showing up automatically gets registered as an action, whether or not there was an offense?
Correct, but the call itself could be changed if my guys show up and it isn't a drug call. There are no drugs on scene, or we can't prove that there were anything related to drugs. That could change the call to, let's say, a domestic violence call. So the call comes out, drug-related call, but when we get there, it's not quite a drug-related call. So that would change the statistical data. It originally came out one way, but when we got there, we cleared it another way because there were no drugs.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yes. Thank you.
Excuse me. If you look at the drug-related calls for service, it's a breakdown from 2011 all the way to 2016. So as you can see, in 2011, 43 calls for service. It escalated up a little bit to a high in 2013, and it drops down dramatically 2014, 15, and we're not obviously done with 2016, so that could go up a little bit. In 2013, I wanted to look into see what that rise was over, and that was before I came to town. But the office initiated a task force that rolled into Fountain Hills, Rio Verde, covered the Beeline Highway. They actively stopped more vehicles, which accrued higher numbers. It wasn't that the town went out of control in 2013. It was an active
Dragnet.
Dragnet is a good word, because that is kind of what it was. But we actively came in and aggressively went after traffic stops, which accrued more stats. If you then look at the next one, calls for service. Well, go back one for me, Beth. Can we go back? If you look at that, it's broken down into the quarters: winter, spring, summer, fall. As you can see, winter and fall are the highest numbers. Well, that makes sense in that the winter visitors come back to town. There's more people in town. It just brings more of the bad guys into town also. I didn't catch that, but it just brings more people into town. The people are come back home, and the people we're talking about that are using drugs, they come into town more. And so the numbers are a little bit higher in the winter and in the fall. If you look at the next slide, where the crime is occurring, it's hard to see that. It's a little washed out, but that's the town. That's incidents where they've occurred. We're obviously not going to put addresses on there to break it down to that level, but it's not too many. I was asked in the beginning, is it horrible in town? No, it's not. It's not. I mean, you can see the numbers have dropped. If you look at that in the lower right corner, when is the crime happening? From noon to 2 p.m., Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So what we've done is, as an office, we've beefed up those times. We have overlap there where we have more guys, more people, more deputies on the street at that time to knock that down.
Madam Mayor.
Councilman Yates?
Captain, although the graph is wonderful, but as far as benchmarking, meaning where do we fall in line with other valleys, as well as even the worst time when we were doing the dragnet, at 70 a year, that's still, what is that, six a month? 6 months, since
Correct.
6 calls a month? Is that a lot?
No, that's not a lot. I had a stat in here that we took out, but it compared the town of Fountain Hills with counterparts. So Queen Creek, Cave Creek, and Carefree. We're below all three of those communities. They're the closest ones, unless you go way west into the West Valley. They're the closest ones to our demographics. We're below all those communities. So we are not, nothing's out of control. One of the things that comes up when we talk about drugs or any calls for service, you can see people, I'll hear stuff third hand. We try to tell people, call us, let us know what's going on. One of the things that's been helpful in town, and maybe Mallory, if she comes up and has something to say, but text a tip fuels these stats too. We'll get, and if you don't know, text a tip is anonymous. People send us text messages. It could be anything from a loud juvenile party at this address to a car racing through town, and here's the description of the car. So that generates a lot too. As you can see by the numbers, we don't have a lot of that. We react to it, we address it, we handle it, but even those numbers, they don't skyrocket, which answers the question. No, the town hasn't lost control. Not that anybody said that, but we have drugs. Every community has drugs, but we don't have an abundance of drug problems that some of the other communities and larger communities have. So.
Madam Mayor, Captain, two things. One, if you don't know what the text-a-tip line is, you also have the ability to call 911 and just tell them.
Correct.
Could you elaborate on how that works?
That would be what we talked about in the beginning, what I mentioned, calls for service. So you're at home, you notice something in your neighborhood, or you drive on the way home and you notice at Fountain Park something that's just not right. You're not comfortable, you go home. We suggest you go home or call us on the cell phone. And it's hard to remember phone numbers when we give them out. So we tell people, call 911. The dispatch operator is going to ask you, is this an emergency? It's not an emergency, so you say no. They put you temporarily on hold. They keep the 911 operators free, but another operator will pick up and take your information and schedule the call out to a deputy in the area. So I tell people all the time, my guys tell people, don't be afraid to call 911. Just let them know it's not an emergency. I can be put on hold, and we'll handle it that way. If it's an emergency, obviously use 911 for that. Mm-hmm. So calling in is the best. Sometimes we get walk-ins to the walk-up window. I spoke this morning at the Kiwanis. This came up. There's no problem with coming into the walk-up window, but usually what we're going to do is probably send you home and send a deputy to your house. It just works better. It helps us track calls. These data that we're talking about tonight comes from our CAD, computer-aided dispatch. That's what helps us collect this data, give the numbers that we're talking about, assign reports. It's just an easier way for us to track which we're required to do.
Okay. Captain, what about ages? Are the ages for these crimes all over the board, or are we seeing a certain age group in Fountain Hills?
Mid-20s. The next slide, if we can,
Next slide.
addresses it. So in the upper right, the user demographic, Fountain Hills subjects, individuals out there, are typically white males with the average age of 25.
Okay.
That's what we're finding. Mm-hmm. And that fits. That's for the town of Fountain Hills, obviously the city of Phoenix or Maryvale, the numbers are going to be different. The stats will be different. But that's our demographic here, and that fits. That's what we run into when we, whether it's drugs or alcohol issues. If you look at the other stat in the upper left, when you talk about theft, you talk about other crimes, they're tied into drugs. People that are shoplifting or stealing bikes, we talk about drug users, they're 16 more times likely to be booked for theft,
which also ties right into the drugs. They're stealing bikes or they're stealing stuff so they can sell it and buy their drugs. It could be anything. It could be breaking into cars. It could be stealing bikes from front yards or walking into the Walgreens and shoplifting. Alcohol offenses. Drug users are 14 times more likely to be booked for driving under the influence, drunkenness, or liquor law violations. Drugs and alcohol go hand in hand. They just do. They always have. Not to say that everybody that drinks alcohol is a drug user. We're talking about abusers. And assault. Drug users are 9 times more likely to be booked for assault. We arrest a lot of people for fighting or causing problems in the community that are drug users. Not major, but drug users.
Yeah,
Not only major.
I just want to follow up with what I just asked you. It's interesting now you're saying that the age is now in the 20s, because I know that people always assume that it's high school kids. We get a lot of that, but you're saying it's not. It's the
Our
majority.
demographics is older than high school.
Okay.
We do have some issues with the high school. Obviously, marijuana. There have been a couple other incidents with pills. Not so much heroin or the harder drugs, but we know, I tend to agree, we talk about gateway drugs. I think marijuana is a gateway drug. It leads to that. So the kids that we're dealing with at an early age, the fear, the worry would be that they roll into something bigger.
Right. Councilman Magazine, have a question?
Captain, I don't want to place you in the middle of a political debate, but we're about to have a ballot question on legalizing recreational marijuana. If it's a gateway drug, am I correct in assuming that you think that you'll see the incidence of problems go up?
Well, that's a tough question for me to answer, Councilman. The comment I just made was my opinion. I do think it leads to other things. That's probably as far as I should stick my neck out on that discussion.
I'd like to ask a question. It's not drug-related, but it goes back to the 911. If we were to see young people hot-rodding up streets on a regular basis at 50 miles an hour plus, and we have plate numbers, is that a waste of your time to call in?
No, what's a waste of my time is if you don't have a plate number and you just have a direction of travel. A plate gives us more to go on. To write a speeding ticket, we need to see that person speeding. But with a plate, it gives us a reason to approach. Even if they make it home, we can approach, knock on the door, ask more questions than we can if I don't have a license plate. So a license plate gives us a lot more leeway in dealing with that person.
Thank you.
Okay, we want to continue?
Yep. Oh, well, that pretty much ends
Okay.
but I can answer more questions if there are more questions.
Yeah,
Or
well-
if we want to get Mallory up here, we can bring Mallory.
Well, Shelley does a great job. I know I work with her with the coalition and Maria.
I'm
And I know that the stats are great, showing that it's going down in Fountain Hills. And I have to say that I think a lot of it has to do with the Fountain Hills Coalition, because everybody says the thing you have to do is start early. And Maria runs the Above That Club, which starts off at the middle school. And people thought, boy, you're starting to talk about in middle school. These are just kids, but that's where you have to start it. And I really think that over the years, working with them, they do an amazing job. And that's what's bringing the stats down in our high school.
I would agree. Let's mention one more that the town also participates in, and that's the Midnight Madness program, which is another exactly what you described. And I've been butchering Shelley's name all night with Mallory. I had to call earlier today with Mallory. It's Shelley. But the Midnight Madness, but also one thing I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, we are the only community in the valley that has Text-a-Tip, which is unique, and it is helpful for us, and it's been a successful program. And Shelley plays a big role in that too, and helps us with putting it out there and advertising it. So it's unique to hear. I don't know if it's ever going to catch on anywhere else in the state of Arizona, but we're the only ones running with it.
That's great. Any other questions for the captain? Shelley, did you want to maybe come up and add something just in relation to what the captain was saying? Well, you can come up as a,
Shelley, I think you also have done a lot of research in that whole area. Councilmember Magazine asked, so maybe you can address his question that he had about marijuana and what he asked about that.
I'd be happy to.
first identify yourself and then tell us.
So my name is
who you
Shelley
are.
Mowry, and I'd just like to say that I'm here on my own. I am not being paid with any grant funds or anything from the coalition to be here. So I'm here as a mom. I work in Fountain Hills, but I live in Scottsdale. So I work with the Fountain Hills Youth Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition. Directly to answer your question on Prop 205, we will see a certain and significant increase in the number of kids using and abusing marijuana if it passes in the state of Arizona. Colorado has seen a huge increase. They now have not only they are the leading state in the country for youth marijuana use, also for 18 to 25 and 26 plus. Not only now are they leading the entire country for marijuana use, they're leading the entire country for all illicit drug use, for heroin, cocaine, for methamphetamine. So the black market is alive and well in Colorado, and the kids are suffering.
Thank you for that. I'm certain we're going to see an increase in the use of marijuana if it's legalized for recreational use. I guess what I'm asking to be more precise, is there any specific research, evidence, whatever, that it leads to other drug use?
Well, here is, and I think you asked about crime too. One of the things, just quickly, the Rocky Mountain HIDA report from Colorado shows that marijuana-related traffic fatalities are up 48%. So again, that's a lot of issues of police time and that type of thing. So here's where that gateway effect comes in. When you look at the data, it shows that kids are regular pot smokers are more likely to use other drugs. It's clear. Now, do we say it's a gateway drug? It's just that wherever they go, there are typically other drugs brought to the party, so they're more likely to use those drugs and to graduate onto other things. I very rarely run into a heroin addict who didn't start with either smoking marijuana or using alcohol. It's one of the two.
Thank you.
Okay, and County Attorney Bill Montgomery did a great presentation this morning to the Chamber concerning the legalization and what the effects will be if it actually becomes legal. So, and Bob, there was someone there from the Times, Barb was there, so I'm sure she'll be reporting on that. But he also has an excellent slide presentation on it. So there's a lot of information out there with the facts from the coalition, from our own county attorney, if anyone does need more information on it.
Yeah, I just want to thank the captain, too. He's just been such a great partner. The town here, the sheriff's office, just a great partner with the coalition and really going above and beyond always, from the personnel who's always willing to lend a helping hand if we need something, or, with the drop box and that kind of thing. But that's actually what I put my time in real quickly for Prop 205, is because one of the secrets of Prop 205 is that if it is passed, you don't get a say in regulating that business if it comes to Fountain Hills. You don't get any say. What happens is that if there is a medical marijuana dispensary in your town, because what it does is the proposition mandates a marijuana monopoly. The medical marijuana industry is all backing this financially because they are the people that get all of the licenses if it passes. So what they do is, they get all of the licenses to distribute, grow, manufacture, and retail it. So our marijuana dispensary will become a retail marijuana shop. That's why they want the longer hours. So it will become a marijuana because they get first dibs. And then towns cannot regulate it. After 2020, marijuana delivery, like pizza delivery, will be available. Also marijuana bars. And also, what's the other piece on there? Oh, you can't regulate how many you have. So in Colorado, there are now more marijuana pot shops than McDonald's and Starbucks combined.
Mayor.
Councilman Magazine?
Shelley, I presume when you say we have nothing to say about it, you're not saying that they can be created regardless of zoning, codes, other regulations.
500 feet from a school. You can't do anything else about that. 500 feet from a school.
What would the zoning be for something like that? Do you have any idea?
I have no idea. Really, it's a trial lawyer's dream. Some of it is very vague. It says that you can smoke in a public place. Well, is your front porch a public place if somebody's walking by on the sidewalk and they're smelling marijuana, or in their backyard? Is that considered? HOAs cannot ban grows. Landlords cannot ban use in a rental property unless it's a HUD housing. They're getting federal dollars for it. It's packed. It's chock full of all kinds of things.
Yes, part of what I'm asking is, can somebody come in and there's a vacancy on Avenue of the Fountains, and just move in and sell marijuana?
Correct. After 2020, they can.
You sure?
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely, for sure,
Yes.
Boy, that makes no
with
sense.
certainty.
Plus, they're also going to be adding more than they already have, because that's beyond the time when there was only a certain amount. So now they already have so many applications in for new shops, even before the election. So they're adding those too.
That's outrageous.
Yeah. And these are all the things that county attorney also went over today. So it's a great presentation too.
Yeah, and as a town, I mean, if you don't have any, you have no control over it.
And now-
It's voter protected.
Most of the questions that were asked by the business community was also, what control do we have in our business? And they were told, you don't have any control. So there's no control in the town, there's no local control for your own business, and so they have to know the truth about it.
Yeah.
Okay?
We also don't want to forget the whole edibles market.
Yeah, you got to come up.
Oh, no, that's what I just wanted.
We can't, okay, did
The
you,
gummy bears, the cookies, the candies, it's all allowed.
Mm-hmm.
In Colorado, kids can't take their lunch to school anymore because they can't tell the difference between pot-laced food and that is not pot-laced.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to eat the school lunch.
yeah, okay. Any other questions? If not, thank you so much for impromptu coming up and answering our questions. We appreciate it. Captain, thank you as always. Thanks for giving us an up-to-date on what's going on. All right. Do we have any speaker cards for a call to the public?
Yes, Mayor, one card. Mike
Okay.
Shambo, Archambault.
Okay.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Mike Archambault, former council member and currently a council candidate. I come to you today for twofold. One is an active member of the community and a business professional. First of all, I want to congratulate the mayor and Cecil, Councilman Yates and Councilman Brown for the elections, and future Councilman Art Tallis. We had great debates. Everything went just fine. I thought we all got our points across, and citizens made their choices. Second reason I'm here is being an active member of the community and a business professional. Throughout the debates, I always promoted that we put everything on the table when we're discussing ideas and how to solve problems. When you start taking things off the table, you start limiting your solutions. So what I want to present to you tonight is, I got to thinking, I was here at the last council meeting at 5 o'clock when you had the good doctor talking about the water quality in the lake. And I got to thinking about it the last couple of weeks. And the idea that I want to put before you is just something that you should, I think you should at least investigate. It's going to take a collaborative effort with another entity. And that is that one of the issues that you're dealing with is the quality of the water in the lake. Now, I know you're going to put the aerators in there, and that's the low-hanging fruit. That's something that you can grab right away. That's what we always promoted, was grab the low-hanging fruit, start working on the problem. One of the things you need to do, or I heard the doctor talk about, is if somehow you could recirculate that water in the lake, you'd have fresher water, you wouldn't have the salt in the water, and you'd be able to use it for irrigation. The sanitary district has recharge wells in the lake. Currently, I think what they're doing is they're taking the water from the sanitary district, sending it over to their plant that pushes it out to the recharge wells. If you could get together with the sanitary district and get them to take the water from the lake and put it into the recharge wells, and then take the water they would send to the recharge wells and put it into the lake, you'd have a much better turnover and a better quality of water on the lake. And maybe, hopefully, with the aerators, then you avoid the algae altogether. But I believe that your goal is to get better quality water. this is one solution that it's just a thought outside of the box. Maybe you should look into it and see if it's something that's doable. It's going to take a collaborative effort with the sanitary district. You're going to see where their lines are. They could probably, and it might take you guys doing it, put a pump in the pump house that would pump the water to their plant that they could push out to the recharge wells. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, Mike, for coming up and giving us some good idea about the water. We'll certainly look into that.
Just look into it, see if it's something that's doable.
Great.
Certainly a creative solution.
Thank you. Sure. On our consent agenda, we have 8 items. Can I get a motion to accept as written?
Move.
And
Mayor,
a second? And roll call, please.
Vice Mayor DePorter?
Aye.
Councilmember Magazine?
Aye.
Councilmember Leger?
Aye.
Councilmember Yates?
Aye.
Councilmember Brown? And Mayor Cavan.
Aye. Consideration of lease agreement between the town and the Fountain Hills Civic and Cultural Association for the community garden. Grady, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, you'll recall that at the April 21st council meeting that Dr. Patel, a local doctor and community activist, came before the council with a great idea, and that was, and by the way, when I used community activist, that wasn't a negative, especially with what I'm introducing. But anyways, Dr. Patel and a group of volunteers came before you, and they had a great idea, and that was to approach the council on the possibility of making available the property that was previously designated as the Performing Arts Center to be used as a community garden here at the Civic Center. The council unanimously approved it. And
now joining.
And since that time, we have worked up a lease agreement that pretty much was required before we could do have any activities over there related to the community garden. Our town attorney worked up this agreement. It was done back in July, and it has been reviewed and approved by the Fountain Hills Cultural and Civic Association, which is the sponsoring organization of the community garden. Just to give you some factual details about the lease agreement, what's contained in it. The initial term on the lease will be for 1 year, but it will have automatic renewals unless terminated by either party. The lease cost is $1 a year. And then under the terms of the lease agreement, the community garden will be responsible for all aspects of the operations and costs associated with the garden. And this includes utilities, waste disposal, site preparation, maintenance, and all related gardening operations. The town is currently involved in trying to extend power service to the site, and that will be probably about a cost once that is done about $10,000 to $11,000. And we're also going to be extending water service. We had been originally asked to grade the site, but thanks to the volunteerism of Bart Shea with N. Shea, they will be doing the grading of the site, which would have saved the town close to, we believe, $10,000. So anyways, this project is really starting to take shape, and the lease agreement is the most critical part of that. In addition to all the terms and conditions I outlined, the Fountain Hills Civic and Cultural Association will be required to carry general commercial, public liability, and property insurance for a minimum of $1 million, and will be naming the town of Fountain Hills an additional insured. And we have already received that certificate of insurance from Jenny Willigrod and Jerry Butler. One of the things that we're also getting in exchange, it's not all, the town just giving up this property, but the town will also be receiving a community plot as well, of which the council can determine how to best utilize that. So anyways, without any further points on this, I'd be happy to turn it over to the council for any questions that they may have. Also, we have representatives. We have Dr. Patel here in the audience, and we also have Jerry Butler and Jenny Willigrod from the Civic and Cultural Association, if you have any questions.
Okay, first I wanted to invite Dr. Patel up if she'd like to come up and talk to us about this wonderful garden. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor and Town Council and staff members. I do want to recognize the garden supporters that are here today. If you want to stand up.
Please stand. Right.
Again, it's been a journey, but a great one. We've had so much town support. It's been so good to see that the good people of Fountain Hills want to do something to help build this community. So thank you so much for supporting the project. If you have any questions regarding the project, please ask me.
I'm just amazed at how many arms you twisted and all that free stuff you got.
It's wonderful to have such good, generous people and businesses and talent in this town. So we're very, very lucky. Big hearts and lots of support from the schools, school districts, to the Girl Scouts, to social service groups, to the town, through personal businesses, people, master gardeners. We've just had just tremendous amount of support.
And service providers, I know they're also making some sort of an in-kind donation.
Yeah, we, Bart Shea has been a big contributor. He's going to grade and fence the lot for us, which is a big feat. He's helping bring the water in as well. APCOR Water donated the water meter. We've gotten a donation from SRP. Morning Star is donating for all the irrigation supplies. So we've just had a lot of good people, good businesses, and a lot of support.
But of course, they couldn't have done it without you. I know that the first time when you came in to see us, you came in and Grady and I sat down with you and you said you want to talk to us about this idea of a community garden. And both of us said, well, we expected you to just sit down and say, hey, look, I got this idea about a community garden. What do you think? But instead you said, and I've got this figured out in this committee, and this one's going to do this, and this one's donating this. And you had the entire thing already organized, and you presented everything to us, and it was just amazing, the amount of work that you've done.
Thank
So
you.
we are very grateful.
It's not just me. I promise you, there's a lot of people behind this
know.
project, including the town staff. Mark's been great, and and Grady's been great, and we've just had some really good people and good support. And if we couldn't be at this point if it wasn't for them. And the work's just beginning, and hopefully, with all the good support that we have from the town and businesses, this will continue to grow as an intention for this town to be healthier, to be together, to be a community again. That's my intention.
Well, you're already on the road to success, so we congratulate you on everything you've accomplished.
Thank you.
And I think we have some comments.
First off, thank you again for coming. I was going to ask about section 5.1 about site prep. And I'm all for this, but I was like, we're going to do the site prep. But that's tremendous, that Shay. Put you on the spot. What's your time frame?
Well, it's going to be graded. So again, the first phase, which is 8,500 square feet, is our phase 1. So as soon as we get the lease signed, then work can start right away. So Bart's got the equipment to fence and grade the lot as soon as we give him the go. And then, of course, we've talked to the town about the water, bringing that in, soon after that. And then the irrigation supplies are already spoken for. So as soon as the grading of the lot is completed, which Bart suggests 2 months to get his part done, then following that, the irrigation, and then following that, the beds.
Tremendous. Thank you, Mayor. Great job. Great job.
Councilman Brown?
Thank you, Mayor. I take this very seriously. I think you've done a great job. I think the entire organization is wonderful. I'm impressed with the way you've brought it together. A serious question, though, is in the event that marijuana becomes legal in the state of Arizona, and I hate to even bring this up, but are there any provisions to prevent marijuana from being grown on our town property in your community park?
If I may, Councilmember Brown, our genius attorney over here thought of that, and that was included. And also, we've been getting requests lately for allowing chickens and other forms of livestock in neighborhoods. And we thought, you know what, that should also be an excluded item, so that was also added to the lease as well.
No chickens?
No chickens, sorry.
It's also in our garden rules. So we have created bylaws and garden rules and a garden contract for anyone that's going to be part of the community garden. And we do have that included in there as an exclusion of substances and also other illegal drug use or any kind of use of the garden that might be illegal.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks.
Okay, anything on this side? Councilman Leger?
Once again, thanks. Great job to yourself and all those folks involved. Good timing, because you're coming right into the planting season, aren't you? And with that in mind, have you decided, because I haven't seen a detailed plan of what your crop will be or what initially you'll be planting?
And again, we haven't gotten to that part yet just because it depends on what the planting season is when we get to that point.
Sure.
We do have several master gardeners that are part of our program, and some of them have even given a class. One of them has actually given a class on planting seasons for the group.
Awesome.
So we'll use their counsel when the time comes when we're ready to plant, to decide which way we're going to go, what we're going to teach. We'll definitely have classes for people that are novices to learn about planting seasons and soil prep and what's appropriate.
And it's nice to hear that SRP grant came in. Are you at liberty to say what they awarded you?
Well, I'm still in discussions to get more.
Okay.
They did just give us $500 to get it started.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Nice job.
Okay, anything else? No? Okay, thank you.
Can I present the council with a check for our first lease?
Do you want us to approve the lease
Oh,
first?
Absolutely.
I'm okay with getting the money first.
All right.
I'm giving you some leverage.
All right, then why don't you stay there while Councilman Yates makes a motion?
And whatever you do, don't give the check to Councilman Yates. Our finance director is over there, so.
You want to make the motion?
Mayor, I'd like to approve the lease as presented.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, now you can have us the check.
Thank you.
Bob, did you want to get a picture of the check? Come on, Bob.
Can I be in the picture?
How about Craig? Present it to Craig. No, Bob needs a picture.
Get out there,
Come on, Craig.
Come on.
Come on, Craig.
This will be a first, Craig in the Times.
That's part of the job. You signed it.
You hate this. That's why we're making you do it.
Craig, be sure to deposit that in our high-interest earning account, too.
$1. Small town USA.
Lots of good stuff today, huh? Okay. Consideration of approving cooperative purchase agreement C 2017-045 between M.R. Tanner Development and Construction Incorporated and the Town of Fountain Hills for asphalt replacement and miscellaneous work in the amount not to exceed $1,796,753.59. Grady?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, this item could have been on the consent agenda, but due to the high interest that the council has in our pavement management program, and also the dollar amount that's involved, I thought it'd be important at least to have this on for a presentation and discussion before action. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to our Public Works Director, Paul Mood.
Mayor Kavanaugh, council members, the cooperative purchase agreement before you tonight for approximately $1.8 million with M.R. Tanner is to continue with our second year in Zone 1 of our pavement management program. I've highlighted the streets in red that we are proposing to do this year, as well as this also shows what we've previously completed. So if I go back a slide, this is what we did last year for about $1.5, $1.6 million. And then add on top of that, this is what we are doing this year for the $1.8 million. Plus, we also do concrete curb repair and repair sidewalks as well. The work is anticipated to start October 5th. The work in the area of Hampstead and Bainbridge around the high school is slated to be completed during their fall break, which is the second week in October. So then next year, after this gets done, we have over 80 locations, individual locations of repair. So all those light up. So yeah, I'll go back and put it back on. So that would be next year. That's about $1.2 million. And then we have to go back and surface seal the roads we did the first year. And then we also have to surface seal Saguaro Boulevard, because if we don't do that, we're just sending our pavement right down the same path. So that is actually a little bit over our budget of what we plan each year. So we're cutting it pretty close that year. So then we actually have to go a fourth year in Zone 1. And I don't know, and all the roads in green, highlighted, my little highlighted, those would be slurry sealed in year 4. And that's approximately $1.75 million. Plus we have to go back and surface seal what we did in year 2. Plus we have to go out on Shea and do what's approximately 7 or 8 years old at that point. So now we're hitting about the $3 million mark, so we can't do all that work. So we're going to have to come up with more money or not do something. So I know this is about the contract tonight, but you can see this is growing on itself, and it's compounding. So we're 4 years in Zone 1, zones 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 are just pushed that much farther
So, Mayor and Council, Paul and I talked last month, and we believe it's due time probably for another chat with the council in a work session. So we're looking at tentatively probably November, where we can go through and talk about some of these challenges and some of the recommended course of actions. And we're also looking at, maybe the next big bond issue might be in the year 2020, which would be about the time after this last one would have retired. So, but we really feel that we need to come before you because Paul is finding that what had previously been rated, pavement that was had longer life is actually deteriorated, and so that's problematic. We're also wanting to look at maybe having another pavement management study done, which would help us, and we would have the software then that could help us manage that in the future. So without giving you too much ahead of what that work session might be, I do think that this is going to become a bigger challenge for us. And so we want to sit down with you and kind of go through the discussion on this.
Okay. Councilman Magazine?
I find this incredibly troubling. In a way, we sort of saw this coming, but to see these actual numbers is kind of startling. When we started, wasn't Zone 1 supposed to be 2 years? And then it was extended to 3?
Mayor, Councilmember Magazine, that's correct. That was our best guess before we, based on the old Stantec report, which was from 2008, 2009. But actually I've been going out almost daily and driving all the roads in town and assessing them. And when I drive them, I mean, honestly, I don't know where to start and stop.
We started out putting $1 million in the budget. And now we're at $1.5 million, $1.6 million, $1.2 million, $1.75 million, et cetera. How confident are you in these numbers? I mean, we're talking 3-4 years out.
These numbers are based on if you did it today. So every like to your point, every year when we get ready to go do kind of the next year budget, we go out and we'll drive it again to see if something got worse that we need to add.
I wonder if I could ask Craig a couple of questions. Craig, we've talked about, from the last budget, a cumulative shortfall of $5.9 million through the next 5 years. You and I spoke, and it's clear we're talking about more than that. Was any of this figured in, the road costs?
The road costs are part of the capital improvement project program.
Right.
And funding, as you're aware, is low in capital projects fund. And without additional funding to that fund or use of reserves, they weren't contemplated. And there were no specific projects already established in future years for this pavement.
And we've already transferred money from other places into this to reach
Correct.
these numbers. And that money came from reserves and where else?
Former town manager Buchanan presented a plan to council to use the 0.2% of the excise tax money that was being used for payment on bonds for the preserve to be dedicated to the pavement management program. That started July 1st of this year.
And didn't we decide as a council that as the bonds were retired, such as community center, that money would go into roads? Is that correct?
The community center will not be retired until 2020.
Right.
But yes, that additional 0.1% would be dedicated to the pavement.
If I understand this, and I'm no mathematician, but I think we're in a very, very precarious situation. We're delaying fixing the roads, which means they're all deteriorating more. The costs are going up. We've established fixing our roads as one of our top 2 priorities for the council. I think we've got to give this the highest possible priority. And a work study, I would hold a work study as soon as we can hold a work study. And so we know and get some idea as to what it is we're dealing with, how we're going to fund all this, and what we're going to tell the citizens who are complaining, as they should, about the quality of our roads. Every time we get a report, it's worse and worse and worse. And the estimates for the other zones don't include going in, as we did for Zone 1, to see how many parts of those zones have to actually be dug up and go down to the base. So I don't put a lot of stock in these numbers if they're based upon today. Clearly, we're going to have inflation, there'll be other costs, we're going to find other things. So even for Zone 1, we're talking an enormous amount of money over a long period of time. And I'm just venting. I'm venting because it's such an important issue for the town, and I think we've got to give it the highest possible priority. Thanks.
And Councilmember Magazine, I absolutely agree with you. And in talking with our Public Works Director, he has expressed the concerns as well. And when I was hearing this, that's why I said we needed to actually have a work session. This can't wait for the council retreat. This is something we need to get on and start planning before we put together our budget. The other thing is, as Mr. Mood indicated, it's been about 8 years since the last time we did a pavement management study. And so that would actually help us if we budgeted for a pavement management study. I realize it's you're spending money that can go into the streets, but actually that will help us better identify what our ongoing costs will be and help us evaluate our streets. Because right now, we're basing it off old information, and as Paul's going out and looking at what was in the study and looking at what he previously had assessed, there's been further decline and further deterioration of the streets. And so I think it's essential to actually do a pavement management study and get going on that, and if we can even do that sometime this year, so we don't even have to wait through the budget process, that would even be better.
And I think that'd be a good idea to do that and to have the work study so that everybody can have all the information in front of them and
Absolutely.
could make the best possible decision, because as of right now, we don't have that in front of us. So discussing it is just reiterating what we all know.
I follow up.
Sure.
Grady, pardon my skepticism, but every time we take a look at our streets and try to assess where we are, we're wrong. We're grossly wrong. What is, maybe I just don't understand what the study is. What's the study going to tell us about Zone 7?
Okay.
What's it going to tell us about Zone 6, which are years and years and years in the future?
First of all, they're going to do this in one fell sweep, and they're going to be able to tell us the conditions of the streets. And what I'd like to have come out of this is for the council to determine, as a policy level, what is acceptable as a grade. And what I've talked to Paul, where I've worked previously, we actually had letter grades for the pavement quality. And for like arterials in the community I worked in previously, a B level was satisfactory. But when you get into maybe neighborhood streets or something like that, that doesn't have the volume and the traffic counts and such, and that might be a C level. But the point is, it's going to give us a dollar estimate as to what it's going to take to repair these. It's going to tell us what types of treatments and replacement is going to be involved, and it's going to help us prioritize it, because if you don't have a total cost and estimate, then it's going to be really hard for us to even go out and possibly bond or figure out a true way of addressing these problems.
But a B level today isn't a B level 2-3 years from now.
No, that's
Councilman
not.
Magazine, I don't want to, stop you. I know you have a lot of concerns, but these are all the things that we need to discuss at a work study.
Okay.
This is because, we don't have the answers to that, and we need to get some more information, if you don't mind,
All
okay?
right.
But write all those down and remember all those questions, and maybe we can get a lot of that information before the study, okay? Okay, good. So any other council discussion on the purchase agreement? That's where we are. If not, can I get a motion?
Mayor, so moved.
Second?
Second.
And any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mayor, 6-0.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Consideration of ordinance 16-09, amending Town of Fountain Hills Town Code, Chapter 9, Article 9-4, Section 9-4-3, and adding a new section, 9-4-4, operation of model aircraft or unmanned aircraft in town parks, all related to regulating the use of drones in the town park. Grady?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, as your packet indicated, this past session, the legislature passed legislation addressing the whole issue of drones or unmanned aircraft. And in order for us to be in compliance with it, we needed to essentially update our ordinances. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mark, who will explain this in further detail.
Actually, I think you did a great job explaining it for me. But basically, have in front of you an ordinance number 16-09, and as the town manager indicated, it basically will bring us back into compliance. Two things that came out of that legislation session specific to drones were that, first of all, only the state legislature could set any rules specific to drones in municipalities. What was happening across the state, each community was free to set up their own rules, and there was a great deal of variance between communities. So with that, they struck that down and decided that it needed to be established by the legislature instead. So basically, we're out of compliance because we have no drones permitted in parks at this time. Secondly, they also indicated that if you had a minimum number of parks, and we meet that criteria, you do have to establish at least one of those parks where drones can be used. We discussed it at the staff level and also with the Parks and Rec Commission, and we're of the opinion that the best that we could come up with was Desert Vista Park, and I believe there's a map in your packet that designates that particular area. We also indicated that it would be times when it wasn't being used, because we didn't want to have mixed uses out there with unmanned aircraft. The last thing that was done was the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, also came out with a number of rules longly anticipated that dealt with drones and anything that they classified as unmanned aircraft. And this falls now into a broad category that also includes drones. So we would be in compliance with the regulations there as well. But the main one is the compliance for the state legislature. So this would establish that we have that specific area. We would change our park signs to reflect that fact, that each of the users in parks would know that it was specifically not permitted in that park unless they were used in that particular area. With that, I would gladly answer any questions.
Yeah, I just have one question. If we're having an event like Concourse in the Hills or something like that where, you know, having a drone go overhead and take some pictures would be great, would the town be okay to authorize that?
It's my understanding that as long as they are in control of the, and Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, but as I understand it, you can take off from Gold Eagle Park and literally walk your controls with the device to Fountain Park, and there isn't anything that regulates against that.
Oh, okay. Well,
Madam Mayor, Councilmember, or
that, yeah, not
that
quite what I was asking, but.
there are two answers actually. One is if a commercial operator is operating according to whatever regulations the state imposes, and they're hired to do that job, then we don't have anything to say about it. The regulation only permits the town to regulate taking off and landing in the park. So quite literally, an operator could park across the street and fly over the park, and we have no regulation against that.
Over any park?
Over any park.
Over any
They could park in Plat 208, take off from the back of their car, fly over the park, do what they want to do, and fly back, and that would be within the state law.
What about flying over people's homes? Can they do that too?
Again, we don't have any authority. The state has
Right.
stripped us of any authority. So this is the maximum amount of your authority, is to designate one park, is to prohibit them from taking off and landing in your parks, except you have to designate one that they can do that. So in Golden Eagle or in Fountain Park, they won't be able to take off or land in the parks. They could do it from adjacent property, unfortunately, but in Desert Vista, there'll be one spot where they're designated where they can take off and land.
Okay, and just to clarify my question, if the town wanted, let's say, to take pictures of an event that was going on in Fountain Park, could we hire somebody to do that for that event, or could we grant the event organizers the permission to do that? Do we have that control?
We don't have any authority to grant the event organizers to do it, but they can certainly hire a company that has the permission to operate a commercial drone.
Okay.
We also use them in a lot more mundane things like our streets projects.
Right.
You know, some of the best aerial views we have of the Shea and Saguaro intersection that I've ever seen. We have great photography used by our contractors there, so it's in a lot of applications already. We just don't have any authority to tell anybody they can't, particularly commercially.
And we can't tell ourselves we can't either, then we could still do it.
That's a.
I'm still trying to get you to say that we can do it.
But
That's all I want to know.
Madam Mayor, it's a whole different world. To become operators under the FAA
No,
rules.
not that we're operating, but that we're hiring somebody, like I said.
Again, it's.
We want to hire somebody to go out and do an aerial view of the
Right.
fair or something like that, because we want those pictures.
Correct. If they're a commercial
can do that.
operator who's allowed to operate under the state regulations.
Then we can do. Okay,
Absolutely.
that's,
But we can't do it ourselves.
no, I didn't want to do it myself. Okay, any other questions? Okay, thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
That's it. And so, any speaker cards?
No, ma'am.
Nope, then all we need is a motion on this one.
Madam Mayor, so moved.
And a second,
Second.
okay? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, Nick, you're still with us, good. All right,
He's gone.
council discussion direction to staff, we already discussed that. We don't have anything there, but we already discussed the roads and the workshop and all that, so
Madam
I
Mayor, if I
think.
could, the study that we did do, don't they have like a better deal if they just upgrade it, if that's possible? Going to the same Stantec who did that? Or no matter what, because it's old enough, it doesn't matter?
They have to go out and evaluate all the streets, and that's a big part of it. They have their own software, so that part would remain like the same generally, but then they have to go out and evaluate all the streets and basically assess them, figure out, you know, what they need as far as,
Basically, I'm saying if there's any kind of deal to be had to going back to the.
Stantec is certainly one of the larger engineering firms in the valley, and I'm sure that they would have an
Now
interest
joining.
in participating, you know, and probably submitting a response to an RFP.
All right, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, now, our next section is, and I wanted to talk about Adero Canyon. Grady and I got a wonderful tour, but I'm going to go to Councilman Brown to talk about Adero Canyon.
Thank you. Adero Canyon is the last large parcel that MCO actually owns in Fountain Hills, and they've been working on completing Adero Canyon, or actually starting Adero Canyon and moving forward for about the last 18 months. If you were to go out on Palomino and cross Palisades, you will be on Eagle Ridge Drive going to the west. If you go past Copperwind through the gates, you will be looking at one of the most amazing canyons, possibly in Arizona. Incredibly beautiful views. It's also going to be housing our new trailhead, finally. After 13 years or so, we'll have a new trailhead. They have actually, Toll Brothers has actually started their first 2 models in Adero Canyon. I would guess they will be open in November, would be a good guess. We are also, I have been blessed with building the Welcome Center, which is the first building as you pull into Adero Canyon. It's very unique in is that it is actually built out of adobe brick and the natural stone that has actually been harvested off the site. The outside is going to look turn of the century, and the interior is highly finished with a very highly finished contemporary look. It's a pretty cool building. But if you haven't had the occasion to drive out and look at Adero Canyon, you get a good feel as you drive down Sunridge Canyon and look across the driving range from the golf course to see the magnitude of construction that is going on. I have to say that Eagle's Nest and Fire Rock, and all of MCO's subdivisions are beautiful, but the crown jewel is clearly going to be Adero Canyon.
Absolutely, yeah. And like I told Jeremy, Frank Lloyd Wright would have been really impressed.
Really impressed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, as I mentioned to Pastor Trent when he was here, Christ Church had a wonderful 9/11 ceremony there on Sunday, and so I just wanted to thank them for having that. They were the only church organization, whatever, to have something. So we're grateful that they did that. And I also want to mention the Sister Cities. We had a reception for the students, our students, who are going to be traveling to Germany and Poland. We got to meet them and their parents and wish them well on their way. The foreign students from Germany and Poland will be coming here in October, and we've got a full 2 weeks of great adventures for them. Also, the Leadership Academy started. I got to welcome the 16 residents that are taking it. The Academy is a series of seminars whose focus is understanding the overall workings of the town government and everything else that is going on in town. So if you didn't get in on the initial class and you want to learn everything you ever wanted to know about, from town government to how the sanitary works to the water, this is the place where you want to do, so you can join the next class. And if anybody is interested, like I said, County Attorney Bill Montgomery has an excellent presentation that he did to the chamber that he's offered his slideshow to anyone who is interested, but also he's open to speak at organizations on that issue. And that's all that I have. If anybody else has anything, I'll just entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
Thanks, Nick. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No one's ever opposed to adjournment. Ever.